and welcome to episode 2 of the CCPS Behavior Corner podcast. I am your host, Talisa Smith, the BCBA for Calvert County Public Schools. I did it again.
Hi, I'm Sue Rapalowski. I am the parent coordinator for Family Support Services. I work with families of kids with disabilities from age 3 to 21, and I am also the parent of a young adult on the autism spectrum.
You're so much better at that than I am. I feel like I need to just write it down and read it. Clearly, I get tongue-tied every time. So today's topic of discussion is unwanted behavior. I feel like this is the thing that we get the most requests about with our students. Is like, someone is doing something that we don't want to happen anymore. So can you please come and help us figure out how to stop that thing from happening? And some of the most common behaviors that I feel like I get calls for is tantrums, dropping to the floor, elopement, climbing furniture, aggression, physical destruction, vocal disruptions. Like, those are the things that I usually get calls for from different schools, when it's just like, hey, we have tried everything that we think could help with this behavior. Please come in and assess and provide us with some tips and tricks. And basically put unwanted behavior is that behavior that is disruptive, that behavior that is dangerous, that behavior that causes issues throughout the day. It's the stuff that we don't want our individuals to do. Because remember, behavior is all communication. So we have behavior that we want to happen more frequently, like raising your hand, participating, walking in line, sitting nicely on the carpet. Those are things that we want to happen more frequently. But then we have those other not so great things that is just like, okay, what can we do to shape that behavior? And what we generally do when we're trying to shape behavior is we introduce a bunch of interventions. Myself or some member of the behavior department, whether it be a behavior tech or behavior specialist, will come in, we'll observe, we'll take notes, we'll do data, we'll have you do data, and we will assess the behavior as thinly as we can so we can figure out, okay, what is making this happen more often? Because generally, if an individual is engaging in behavior frequently, even if it is unwanted behavior, 9 times out of 10, they are getting access to reinforcement by some outside force. So have you seen some of this in some of your classrooms? If you guys don't know, Sue works with the littles, the adorable infants and toddlers, the cutie pies who warm your heart and drive you crazy all at the same time. Ooh. Because they just can't sit still sometimes.
You got that right. I have had quite a bit of, I guess, dropping. We've had some aggression. That was my son. They're little, the kids in our class, not so much physical destruction, but, a lot of attention seeking, crying, tantruming, that kind of stuff. It's been interesting.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure it is. It can be interesting. It can be frustrating. It can give you definitely something to laugh at when you're out of the moment. In the thick of it, it feels like, why me? But then once you take a step back and look back on it, it's just like, did that really happen? Like, did that really happen? How is that something that happened in my classroom? Like, wow. Some of the most common behaviors, again, that I get called for support are tantruming, aggression, elopement, dropping, physical disruption, etc. And some of the interventions that we use most frequently, because we are very much so a hands-off community, we prefer not to do any physical intervention unless we have to. And when we do, it's because there is a risk of danger or for someone being harmed. So we generally like to do things proactively in hopes that the behaviors won't happen, but that's not always possible. Sometimes we have to do things on a reactive side because we have to be proactive about making sure we have things in place when the behavior actually happens. happens, because no matter how much intervention you do, those behaviors can resurface. You know, you can be in a place where you haven't seen a tantrum in 3 months, and then they take a long weekend and they come back to school after being out for like 7 days as opposed to 2 days. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. When did this start happening again? And some things that we use to combat anyone being hurt, providing reinforcement for behaviors that we don't want to happen. We do those reactive interventions, and some of those are wait and redirect, block and move, and planned ignoring. Let's talk about wait and redirect first. So this is a 2-part intervention where the first thing you are going to do is waiting, and the second thing you're going to do is redirect them to task. And so this is usually an intervention that is used for behaviors like tantruming, eloping, verbal disruptions. This is also good for physical disruptions as well. I'm actually using it for it can be used with quite a few different behaviors actually. And so what you do when you are using wait and redirect is that you are first waiting for the individual to return to what is considered their baseline. So if I am perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with me, I'm having what is considered to be a good day, that is the behavior that you want to consider to be like their baseline. So if their baseline does include them throwing cups to the floor or swiping plates to the floor once they're done eating, and that's not considered to be something out of the norm, then you want to, couple that into your baseline behavior so that once your individual calms down and returns to their baseline, then you want to redirect them to whatever it is that they should be doing. So whether that was a task, a work assignment, if it was them going back to the classroom after they've gone to see whoever it is that they've gone to see. It could be them simply going back into the building if they have left the building. Whatever the case may be, when you're using that wait and redirect, you want to first wait for them to be able to receive information, because I don't know about you, Sue, but once I'm upset or I'm frustrated, anything someone says to me just kind of feels like an attack on how I'm feeling.
When my son was a little younger and he would be upset and start doing whatever behavior he was going to do. Mm-hmm. And we had to wait. And then when we thought he was calming down, we waited just a little bit longer. Yeah. Just to make sure. Otherwise, it was going to blow up all over again.
Yes. And that's a tricky thing. I remember when I first got into the field, I was working at an ABA clinic, and we had we only provided services for kids ages 2 to 6, but I had an individual who was 5, and he was so adorable. If other kids would be fighting over a toy, he would walk over and like put his hands in between them to stop them. He had great comedic timing. He was he didn't have vocal behavior, so he didn't use his voice to speak, but he would use gestures. I remember how his family was taking him to Disney World. They were going to Disney for a family vacation, and someone had asked him, hey, where are you guys going? And sure enough, he used his gestures, his facial expressions. It was like a game of charades. And he explained to us, he made mouse noises, and he used his fingers to crawl across people's arms, and then he put his hands on his ears like Mickey Mouse, and it was very evident to us where he was trying to go. And so, he had those communication skills to be able to talk, to let individuals know what he was trying to say, but he would get upset and he would get frustrated, and all of those skills that he had would just go out the window. Yep. And anything you said to him while he was in that escalated state, it was just adding fuel to the fire, man. I think about how when you're grilling on the barbecue and you add the lighter fluid and the fire just goes up over your head, the fire pit, it hits the trees. And that's what I think about with individuals when they're engaged in that almost like that crisis behavior. And anything you say is just adding more fuel to the fire. And so I always advise individuals, family members, support staff, whomever, even in the streets, because I'm telling you, I always seem to bump into individuals who need support when I'm out in the public. I advise everybody to wait, because just like you would like that respect for people to give you a moment to calm down, they need that same moment. And again, you don't want to add fuel to the fire. So it's definitely better to wait. And like you mentioned that you had to do with your son, you not only waited for them to calm, but you gave them some time after that so that they can have the time to process that and to decide if they were ready to engage with people or not. Because you may have thought that you had calmed down from that argument you had with your friend, and then you went out into the common area and saw your friend again, and before you know it, now you all riled up again. It's the same thing with our individuals. So you want to wait until they return to their calmer state before you start to tell them what is expected of them.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Another intervention that we use is block and move. And block and move is generally used for aggression. And this is when our individual is engaging in those behaviors that could potentially cause harm to themselves or to others in the environment. So with that block and move, you want to block their access to others in the room. Do we want you to have to take the punches and the kicks? No, in a perfect world, no one would ever be hit physically, but that's not the situation at hand. So it's better for you to move those other infants and toddlers out the way so that they're at least safe. So you want to block access to others in the room. And then once everyone else is out of the way, you yourself move out of the way. I think that's the simplest thing. And I oftentimes see individuals who hover around individuals engaging in aggression. And sometimes it is necessary, but if you don't have to, just move away. And of course, to our adult brains, it's like, well, no, because they need to do blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, yeah, but they aren't in a place where they can process what it is that you're saying. So it's best for you to block and move, and then let's add these interventions together, wait and redirect. So I'll take you one step further. So now we're going to do 4 different things. I'm going to block others from being hurt. I'm going to move out of the way so I don't get hurt. I'm going to wait for you to calm down. And then I'm going to redirect you to wherever it is you should be doing. It's a sequence. It's like coming down the steps. When the individual is getting escalated, and they are at a point where they cannot receive any information appropriately, they are standing at the top of the stairs, almost jumping, reaching for the ceiling. And then you want to wait for them, come down 3 steps. And it's just like, oh, okay, wait, we're seeing signs of them being calmer. So then you give them a little more processing time. You don't badger them. You don't immediately jump in with the things that are considered to be aversive. And then before you know it, they've come down 4 more steps. It's like, okay, so they've came down 7 steps. We only have 3 steps left. So now I'm going to start to talk to you like, oh, okay, Johnny, you're doing such a great job with calming down. I love how you have a calm body. I love how you're sitting quietly. And then before you know it, Johnny runs back up 3 stairs. It's just like, okay, wait, you weren't ready. You are not ready. I'm gonna give you some more time, Johnny. I'm gonna wait a little while longer, and then once you show me that you're ready for real, then we'll move into that redirection.
Yep, been there.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. And of course, in those moments where your adrenaline is pumping, it's not the easiest thing to remember to do these things, especially once you've gotten yourself to a place where now you're worked up because you're frustrated. I mean, because it is frustrating sometimes. And that's one thing I do want to say, like, it is fair for you to feel how you are feeling. You are allowed to feel frustrated. You are allowed to be upset. You are allowed to feel confusion. Like, all of those things are fair for you to feel. You just want to make sure that you are doing a good job at managing your reactions to these unwanted behaviors, because unknowingly you reacting and your body language reading as frustrated could unintentionally provide them with attention, because that's a response to their behavior. And then before you know it, you're dealing with this on a daily basis. And again, it's not easy. I wasn't able to ignore or not respond or react to behaviors immediately. It was a learning curve. I did 2 years of an internship in order to become a BCBA. And in those 2 years, I was put through the fire. I mean, my supervisor, I felt like she wanted to make sure that she could give me all of the tough cases that she could, because she wanted to make sure that I was a good clinician. And I appreciate that now. But in the moment, oh, no. I wanted to quit. I remember calling a meeting with her like, hey, I need to come off of Johnny's caseload. And she was like, why? And I was like, well, it's just this and it's just that. She said, okay, so what are you going to do when you become a BCBA? And so reality slapped me and I had to just, roll with it. But it's like that for you guys, because, you're at home with your individuals and, they belong to you. They are a part of you. And so I think it's fair for you to be frustrated, and it's fair for you to be confused and upset. You just want to be careful with how you express that. Tap out. Absolutely tap out and walk away. If that's what you have to do to keep your composure in check, tap out. Just do it. I am giving everyone permission to tap out. Find someone to tag in and tap out. Another intervention I want to talk about before you start asking questions about scenarios is the planned ignoring one. Yeah. And I think individuals get confused with planned ignoring because all you focus on is the ignoring part. And it's important to remember that with the planned ignoring, you are ignoring the behavior, not the child. So with planned ignoring, we generally use this for things that are maintained by attention, like elopement. That's a really good example for planned ignoring. So this is when your individual is running back and forth in the classroom and you can't get them to attend to anything. And no matter what, it just makes the amp up. You get up to go and chase them, and now they're running at full speed, knocking things over, crawling underneath the desks. And now it's happening more frequently, and it's because it's likely maintained by attention. So when you have those behaviors that are maintained by attention, you don't want to provide the behavior itself with any attention. So I'm going to ignore the fact that you are running back and forth in this classroom. Is it disruptive? Yes. Am I hoping that none of my other students get up and start running with you? Yes. But I'm not going to provide you with any attention to it because I don't want to reinforce that behavior. Because remember, reinforcement is what we use when we want to increase the behavior. But if it's an unwanted behavior, I'm going to remove that reinforcement from it so that you don't get access to reinforcement for engaging in that unwanted behavior.
So, like the little one that I had in class that was very attention seeking. And did not like to wait as we're sitting at art and we're working with one kid to get all his stuff out and go to the next kid and the next kid, that would fall under the table and start a tantrum and then walk over to under a little desk, and that's where he would be, and then he would calm down just a bit and then check to see if we were watching him. And then start over again.
Because how dare you not watch me while I'm under this table and I'm screaming? Like, how dare you? With something like this, which is this is a common thing that happens. The first thing that we would want to figure out, like, what is maintaining this behavior? Is this behavior being maintained by escape from task that is aversive. And when I say aversive, I mean like something that just causes them to feel like, why me? Like, is it too much work? Is it that I only like to do math and this is a reading worksheet? Is it that I don't want to do a coloring picture? I want to paint. I don't like crayons. I don't like the way they look on the paper. I prefer paint because with paint, I can do more. I can mix colors. You know, it could be a variety of things that could make something aversive to an individual. So the first thing that we would do is assess the behavior, come to figure out what is causing that behavior to happen. And the way we would do that is we would look at all of the events surrounding behavior. So what was introduced to the individual? Did he have attention from someone when he was engaging in the behavior? Did he get a paper cut? Did he decide that he didn't want that color? That cup of crayons, he wanted the blue cup of crayons. Like all of those different things we will look at to see what happened before the behavior and then what happened after behavior. And then once we have assessed it, and we'll just imagine that we have, and that our behavior was maintained by attention and our behavior was maintained by tangibles. Let's say that that's what this behavior is maintained by. So I am engaging in this elopement behavior because I want you to attend to me, Sue, and I'm going to engage in this behavior because you gave Tommy the box of crayons that I personally prefer. So now I'm trying to get access to something and I'm trying to get access to your attention. So with that type of behavior, I would do a combination of interventions because you want to address all of the different functions. You know, you don't want to be only focused on addressing the attention variable and then you leave out the tangible variable. So, you know, you want to have a big bowl of interventions so that you're addressing everything. And so I would probably do something like planned ignoring, because with planned ignoring, I'm removing that attention piece from it, and I'm not reinforcing that behavior by giving you access to attention. And I also would probably couple that with wait and redirect because you do need to complete your tasks. Like, I don't want to unintentionally teach you that if you run away from the table, you get out of doing work, because then that can morph into a whole nother level of you now doing behaviors for escape purposes. So what I would do is I would advise the staff to start out with planned ignoring, to remove the attention piece, wait and redirect to get him back to completing the task. But on the flip side of things, I would also advise the class to introduce a replacement behavior. You want to make sure that you are introducing ways for your individual to get access to those functions. So you want them to get access to attention and to things that they want, but you want it to be done in a more appropriate way. So I would absolutely implement functional communication. So teaching my individual how to ask for attention or how to use their words or pictures or gestures to communicate that they want a specific item. And I would set the goal realistically. Like if I have an individual who doesn't have the strength or the know-how to form sentences, I wouldn't put the requirement on them to tell me in a full sentence, I want you to talk to me and I want the blue cup of crayons. Like if they don't have those capabilities, I wouldn't set that goal for them. I would set it so that they can simply point at something and then maybe they can give me a card to ask for a hug. And then as we are continuously working these interventions with the individual, I would increase the requirement because, you know, you don't want to just have them be at that very low level. You want to try to expand what it is that they do. So maybe you do start to introduce like a PEC strip, a picture exchange communication system is what that is, where it's a bunch of pictures and you use the pictures to communicate. So maybe I start out with just having them give me the card for a hug. And then eventually I build up to them having to form a structure. I want a hug. And then after that, once we've graduated from that level, it'll be, I want a hug from Sue. And, you know, you'll just continue to build upon that skill so that they can start to become more fluent and they can expand their sentence structure. But that's how I would address something like that. I would make sure that I have interventions to react to the behaviors, and I would make sure that I have interventions in place proactively so that we can eliminate the necessity for engaging in the unwanted behavior to gain access to what it is that you want.
Okay.
That was a really good question. I feel like it really encompassed a lot of what my next bullet point was, actually, because it is important that you are teaching individuals how to gain access to that reinforcing factor in appropriate ways. You don't want to ever cut off access to reinforcement for unwanted behavior without teaching that replacement behavior, because we want you to get access to attention. We want you to get access to things that you want within reason, of course. You know, please don't ask me to play what's a video game people play, a Nintendo Switch in the middle of class. Like, that's not appropriate. I can't make that happen, but I can probably make it happen for you to be able to play a puzzle, you know? So you want to make sure that they have access to knowing how to get what it is that they want in a more appropriate way.
Okay. Yep, that would be helpful. That he could press my buttons, boy.
Don't say all. I feel like that comes along with the territory. I feel like there's a handbook that we don't, as adults, we don't remember the handbook, and we don't have access to the handbook, but like someone is teaching children like, hey, you do know if you do this, it will cause her to do that. And then this will happen for you. Like, someone is teaching them something somewhere, which is why this podcast is beneficial, because we're going to essentially give you the cheat codes to the guidebook that they all have, that they pass around to each other.
Yeah, I think that tap out, like, okay, I'm done. Next adult, go ahead. It's your turn.
Exactly. Take turns. Put someone else in the fire. It's like, okay, I have done my due diligence. I need a break. I am going to take 2 laps around the building and I will be back. Exactly. I think that's fair. And if you're in the home, go sit in the bathroom and lock the door, because I know children like to come in the bathroom when their parents are in there. Go in the bathroom, lock the door, put your headphones on and listen to your favorite song 2 times, and then go back and hang out with your family after that. Give yourself those breaks. It's necessary.
Done that too.
Oh, I love naps. I want to be a nap. Naps are amazing. I love naps. Well, this was so cool. Thank you so much for providing me with that scenario today, Sue. It was very helpful. And if you are a listener and you have a situation that you feel like you just cannot figure out in the home, please feel free to shoot me or Sue an email. I'll make sure that our contact information is attached to this specific video so that we can try and help you. We just want to make sure that you guys feel supported and that we can provide you with as much as possible. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you. Well, I'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.